You were taught to save everyone else first. What if that's why you're drowning? Society rewards your self-sacrifice with applause, then abandons you when you break. This book proves self-love isn't selfish, it's survival. What happens when you finally choose yourself? Let me tell you about Sarah. She's standing in her kitchen at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, making lunches for 3 kids while responding to work emails on her phone. Her husband is asleep upstairs. Her mother called twice today asking for help with grocery shopping this weekend. Her best friend texted about needing someone to talk to about her divorce. Sarah said yes to all of it. She always says yes. Her back aches. She can't remember the last time she slept through the night. When was the last time anyone asked Sarah what she needed? When was the last time Sarah asked herself? This isn't a book about bubble baths and face masks. This isn't about treating yourself to expensive things you can't afford, or abandoning your responsibilities to find yourself on a mountain somewhere. This is about something far more radical and far more necessary. This is about the architecture of a life built on a foundation that won't collapse. This is about learning to breathe before you help others breathe. This is about understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup, and right now, your cup has been empty for longer than you want to admit. The world taught you that good people sacrifice themselves. Good mothers put their children first always, no matter what. Good employees stay late and answer emails at midnight. Good daughters drop everything when parents call. Good friends are available whenever someone needs them. Good partners anticipate needs before their own. The word good became synonymous with disappearing. You learned that your worth was measured by how much of yourself you could give away. But here's what they didn't teach you. They didn't teach you that martyrdom is not a sustainable life strategy. They didn't teach you that resentment is what grows in the garden of self-neglect. They didn't teach you that people who truly love you don't want you to destroy yourself for them. They didn't teach you that self-love is not the opposite of loving others. It's the prerequisite. Think about the oxygen mask instruction on every flight you've ever taken. Put your own mask on first before helping others. It's not a suggestion. It's not a nice to have. It's the difference between being able to help anyone and passing out while trying. Your life operates on the same principle, but nobody gave you the instruction manual. Until now, the martyrdom matrix runs deep. It's embedded in religious teachings that glorify suffering and sacrifice. It's woven into cultural narratives about heroic mothers who never rest and dedicated workers who never stop. It's reinforced by social media where people perform exhaustion like a badge of honor. It's upheld by family systems where one person is designated as the giver and everyone else learns to take. You didn't choose this programming. It was installed before you had the consciousness to question it. Let's go back to the beginning. When you were small, you learned that certain behaviors earned approval and others earned disapproval. If you shared your toys even when you desperately wanted to keep playing with them, adults praised you. If you stayed quiet when you had something to say because someone else was talking, you were told you had good manners. If you comforted a crying sibling, even though you were hurt too, you were called mature and responsible. You learned that your needs were less important than keeping the peace, making others happy, and being perceived as good. In school, the pattern continued. The good students helped everyone else, tutored struggling classmates during recess, and volunteered for every committee. Teachers loved the helpful ones who sacrificed their own time. In relationships, the pattern deepened. The good girlfriend was understanding when her boyfriend canceled plans last minute. The good boyfriend worked extra shifts to pay for everything. The good friend drove across town at 2 a.m. when someone needed rescuing. Your identity became constructed around your utility to others. Religious and spiritual traditions often reinforced this framework with language about selflessness being the path to enlightenment or heaven. Sacrifice was holy. Self-denial was virtuous. Putting yourself last was what separated the righteous from the selfish. Even if you weren't raised in a religious household, These values permeated the culture around you. They shaped how success was defined, how goodness was measured, how love was demonstrated. The workplace turned this programming into profit. The best employees were the ones who stayed late without overtime, who checked email on vacation, who never said no to additional projects, who made their job their identity. Capitalism depends on workers who will sacrifice their health, their time, their families, and their sanity for the success of the company. The system requires people who have been trained since childhood to believe their worth is determined by their productivity and their willingness to give endlessly. For women, the programming has additional layers. The ideal woman is nurturing, selfless, accommodating, and endlessly available. She anticipates everyone's needs before her own. She manages the emotional labor of relationships without being asked. She makes everything look effortless while drowning beneath the surface. She never complains because complaining makes her difficult, demanding, or high maintenance. The cultural script for womanhood is essentially a recipe for self-abandonment. For men, the programming is different, but equally destructive. The ideal man is stoic, self-reliant, and needs nothing from anyone. He provides for everyone else, but asking for help is weakness. He solves problems, but never admits when he's overwhelmed. He doesn't have feelings, or if he does, he certainly doesn't talk about them. This version of masculinity is just martyrdom wearing a different costume. It's still self-abandonment. It's still unsustainable. The martyrdom matrix convinces you that you're being noble, when you're actually being exploited. It tells you that exhaustion is proof of virtue. It makes you believe that if you're not suffering, you're not doing enough. It creates a constant background hum of guilt whenever you rest, whenever you prioritize your own needs, whenever you say no. This guilt is the guard that keeps you imprisoned in patterns that are slowly killing you. What does it cost you to live this way? Let's get specific because the price is higher than you've acknowledged. Your body keeps the score, even when your mind tries to pretend everything is fine. Chronic stress from constant self-sacrifice manifests as tension headaches that arrive every afternoon. It shows up as digestive issues that doctors can't quite explain. It appears as insomnia because your nervous system never truly rests. It presents as mysterious aches and pains that migrate through your body. Your immune system weakens because stress hormones are constantly flooding your bloodstream. The emotional cost compounds daily. You feel resentful toward the very people you're sacrificing for, then feel guilty about feeling resentful, creating a toxic cycle. You experience decision fatigue because you're managing everyone else's needs in addition to your own. You feel numb because you've suppressed your own desires and feelings for so long that you've lost touch with what you actually want. You feel lonely even when surrounded by people because nobody really knows you anymore, including yourself. Your relationships suffer in ways you might not have connected to self-neglect. When you consistently put everyone else first, you train them to expect it and take it for granted. You create dynamics where you're over-functioning and they're under-functioning. You build resentment that leaks out in passive-aggressive comments or sudden explosions over small things. You attract people who are comfortable taking more than they give because you've advertised yourself as endlessly available. You push away people who want reciprocity because you don't know how to receive. You're professional. Life stagnates because you're too busy handling everyone else's work to focus on your own advancement. You become the person everyone goes to for help, which feels good in the moment, but prevents you from completing your own projects. You're passed over for promotions because you're too valuable where you are doing the work that nobody else wants to do. You burn out, but can't quit because too many people depend on you. Or at least that's what you tell yourself. Your creativity dies a slow death. When was the last time you made something just because you wanted to? When did you last have the energy for hobbies that serve no purpose except joy? When did you stop reading books that interest you because you're too exhausted by the time everyone else is taken care of? The parts of you that aren't useful to others atrophy from neglect. You become one-dimensional, defined entirely by your roles and responsibilities. Your sense of self erodes. If someone asked you who you are without referencing your relationships or roles, could you answer? If all your identities as parent, partner, employee, friend, and child were stripped away, what would be left? Do you know what you value beyond what you've been taught to value? Do you know what you want beyond what others want from you? The person you were before you learned to disappear is still in there somewhere, but finding them requires excavation. Take Marcus, for example. He's a manager at a mid-sized company, the person everyone emails when they need something handled. His door is always open. He prides himself on being approachable, helpful, the kind of leader who would never throw his team under the bus. He covers for people when they make mistakes. He takes on extra work when deadlines are tight. He mentors new employees on his own time. His boss loves him. His team appreciates him. His performance reviews are glowing. But Marcus hasn't taken a real vacation in 4 years. He checks email before he's even out of bed every morning. He has a standing appointment with a physical therapist for his shoulder tension that never quite goes away. He canceled his gym membership because he never had time to go. His girlfriend recently told him she feels like she's dating his job, not him. He can't remember the last time he felt excited about anything. He feels successful and empty at the same time, and he doesn't understand how both can be true. One Tuesday afternoon, Marcus has a panic attack in his car during lunch. His heart races. He can't catch his breath. He's convinced he's having a heart attack. The ER doctor tells him it's anxiety and suggests he reduce stress, as if he can just turn it off. As if the entire structure of his life isn't built on managing stress for everyone around him. As if saying no is an option he's ever been given. This is what depletion looks like when it finally breaks through the surface. Your body forces the conversation your mind has been avoiding. The anxiety attack, the unexplained illness, the depression that descends like fog, the complete physical or emotional collapse. These aren't failures. They're your system's last-ditch effort to get your attention, to make you stop, to force you to acknowledge that this isn't working. So what if you didn't wait for the collapse? What if you interrupted the pattern before your body forced you to? What if you questioned the programming that told you your worth is measured by your usefulness? What if you considered that maybe, just maybe, prioritizing your own well-being isn't selfish, but necessary? What if self-love isn't the enemy of loving others, but the foundation that makes loving others sustainable? The oxygen mask principle isn't just about airplanes. It's about understanding that your capacity to care for others is directly proportional to how well you care for yourself. You can't give what you don't have. You can't offer patience when you're running on empty. You can't provide emotional support when your own emotional reserves are depleted. You can't be present for others when you're so exhausted you're barely present for yourself. Love is infrastructure, not indulgence. Infrastructure is the underlying foundation that makes everything else possible. Roads, bridges, power grids, water systems. These aren't luxuries. They're necessities that enable daily life. Your well-being is the infrastructure of your life. Everything else you want to do, everyone else you want to help, every goal you want to achieve, all of it depends on you having a foundation that isn't crumbling. When you treat self-care as an indulgence, you approach it like dessert. Something you get only if you've been good, only if there's time left over, only if you've earned it. But you don't earn the right to drink water. You don't have to be good to deserve sleep. You don't need permission to have needs. Basic care isn't a reward for completing all your tasks. It's the foundation that makes completing tasks possible. Think about your phone. You charge it every night without question. You don't wait until it's at 1% and dying before you think it deserves power. You don't make it earn the right to charge by proving it was sufficiently useful that day. You charge it because a dead phone can't function, and you need it to function. You are not less worthy of basic maintenance than your phone. Yet somehow, you've learned to treat yourself with less care than you treat your devices. Self-love as infrastructure means eating regular meals, not just grabbing whatever's quick while you do 17 other things. It means sleeping enough hours that you wake up feeling restored, not just surviving on caffeine and willpower. It means moving your body in ways that feel good, not punishing it with exercise you hate because you think you should. It means regular medical care, not just showing up when something breaks. It means taking your medication, going to therapy, doing the things that maintain your baseline functioning. It also means emotional infrastructure, creating time and space to process your feelings, not just stuffing them down because other people need you to be fine. Setting boundaries so you're not constantly available to everyone's demands. Saying no to commitments that will drain you, even if saying yes would make you look good. Ending or limiting relationships that are consistently harmful. Asking for help when you need it instead of pretending you can handle everything alone. Mental infrastructure matters too. Protecting your attention from the constant demands of notifications and other people's urgency. Reading books that expand your thinking. Having conversations that stimulate you. Learning new things that interest you. Giving your brain time to wander and rest and not be productive. Your mind is not a machine that should run at full capacity every waking hour. It needs maintenance too. Financial infrastructure means not sacrificing your economic security for others' comfort. It means retirement savings even when your family wants you to fund their wants. It means charging appropriate rates for your work even when people pressure you to do it for free. It means a safety net so you're not one emergency away from disaster. It means making financial decisions based on your long-term security, not short-term approval from others. Social infrastructure is having relationships that fill you up instead of only draining you. It's friendships where you can be yourself without performing or caretaking. It's community where you're known and valued for who you are, not what you provide. It's connections that are reciprocal, where care flows both directions. It's support systems you can lean on when you need help instead of always being the helper. When your infrastructure is solid, everything else gets easier. You have energy for the things that matter because you're not running on fumes. You make better decisions because you're not operating from depletion and desperation. You show up more fully in your relationships because you're not resentful and exhausted. You're more creative, more patient, more present, more capable. Not because you became a different person, but because you're finally resourced enough to be yourself. But here's where it gets hard. Building infrastructure requires time, money, energy, and attention. And right now, you're probably giving all of those things to everyone else. You're going to have to take some back. That's where the guilt comes in. That's where the resistance starts. That's where everyone who benefits from your self-sacrifice begins pushing back. That's where you have to decide whether you're willing to disappoint people in the short term to save yourself in the long term. The guilt around self-prioritization is the most powerful guard the martyrdom matrix has. It's the mechanism that keeps you trapped even when you can see the cage. You know you need to make changes. You know you can't keep going like this. But every time you try to set a boundary or say no or take time for yourself, the guilt floods in. It tells you you're being selfish. It reminds you of everyone who needs you. It paints catastrophic pictures of what will happen if you're not available. It makes you feel like a terrible person for having needs. Let me be clear about something. The guilt you feel around self-care is not an accurate moral compass. It's not your conscience telling you right from wrong. It's conditioning. It's the voice of everyone who taught you that your needs don't matter as much as theirs. It's the internalized expectations of a culture that benefits from your self-sacrifice. It's the echo of every message you received about what good people do. Guilt is information, but it's not always accurate information. Where did this guilt come from? Trace it back. When you imagine saying no to your mother's request, whose voice do you hear telling you you're a bad daughter? When you think about leaving work on time instead of staying late, where did you learn that makes you unreliable? When you consider spending money on something for yourself instead of someone else, who taught you that's selfish? The guilt has a history, and it's usually not your history. It's inherited, absorbed, imposed from outside. You can acknowledge the guilt without obeying it. You can notice it's there, understand where it came from, and still make the choice that's right for you. The goal isn't to never feel guilty. The goal is to stop letting guilt make all your decisions. The goal is to develop the capacity to say, I see you, guilt, I understand why you're here, and I'm going to choose differently anyway. This is what it means to parent yourself through the discomfort of change. Dismantling guilt requires you to question the rules you've been following unconsciously. Who made these rules? Who benefits from these rules? Are these rules serving you or just serving others? What would happen if you broke these rules? Really, what would actually happen? Not the catastrophic fantasy version, but the realistic version. Most of the time, the consequences you fear are wildly overblown. Most of the time, the disaster you're preventing by sacrificing yourself would not actually be a disaster if you let it unfold. Here's a revolutionary thought. You are allowed to disappoint people. You are allowed to not meet everyone's expect. But let's be honest about what happens when you start practicing self-love in a world that expects your self-sacrifice. Some people won't like it. Some people will call you selfish. Some people will be confused or hurt or angry. Some relationships will change or end. Some opportunities will close. Some approval you've been receiving will stop. This is the cost of choosing yourself, and I'm not going to pretend it doesn't exist. The question is whether the cost of continuing as you are is higher than the cost of change. What is the cost of continuing? Calculate it honestly. Add up the health problems that will develop or worsen. Count the years you'll spend resenting the people you love. Consider the dreams that will die because you never have the energy to pursue them. Think about the version of yourself that will never emerge because you're too busy being who everyone else needs. Factor in the relationships that will eventually implode from accumulated resentment. Include the moment when your body or mind finally breaks under the unsustainable weight. That's the real cost of not changing. Now imagine a different calculation. Imagine a life where you have boundaries and people respect them. Imagine waking up with energy instead of immediately depleted. Imagine relationships where care is reciprocal and you don't carry everything alone. Imagine pursuing things that matter to you instead of only facilitating what matters to others. Imagine feeling proud of yourself instead of chronically exhausted. Imagine the person you could become if you stopped abandoning yourself. That's what's possible on the other side of this guilt. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself 5 years from now having chosen the path of continued self-sacrifice. See that version of you clearly. Notice their body, their energy, their face. What do they look like? How do they feel? What has this path cost them? What have they lost? Now release that image and imagine yourself 5 years from now having chosen self-love as your foundation. See this version of you. Notice the difference. What do they radiate? What have they gained? Who have they become? Which version of yourself are you willing to commit to creating? The transformation doesn't happen overnight. This isn't about snapping your fingers and suddenly having perfect boundaries and unwavering self-worth. This is about the slow, often uncomfortable work of reprogramming patterns that have been running your life for decades. This is about showing up for yourself repeatedly, even when it's awkward, even when people push back, even when the guilt tries to drag you back to old patterns. This is about building self-trust one kept promise at a time. Let's talk about what that actually looks like in practice. Let's get specific because theory is useless without application. Self-love is not an abstract concept you contemplate. It's a series of concrete choices you make every single day. Choices that slowly reshape the architecture of your life. It starts with telling the truth about your current reality. Not the version you perform for others, not the optimistic spin you put on things, but the actual truth about how you feel and what you need. This requires you to check in with yourself regularly, which sounds simple but is revolutionary. If you've spent years ignoring your own signals, take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone. Right now, without editing or filtering, complete these sentences. I feel, I need, I want, I'm angry about, I'm sad about, I'm scared of, I'm exhausted by, I'm grateful for, I'm excited about, I wish. Let yourself write without censoring. Nobody else will see this. This is between you and you. Notice what emerges. Notice what surprises you. Notice what you've been refusing to acknowledge. This is the starting point. You cannot change what you won't acknowledge. You cannot heal what you pretend is fine. You cannot care for needs you refuse to identify. The first act of self-love is simple honesty about your inner reality. Everything else builds from there. Now look at where your time actually goes. For 1 week, track every hour. Don't change your behavior, just observe it. Note what you're doing and for whom. Mark whether each activity energizes or depletes you. At the end of the week, calculate the totals. How many hours went to your own rest and restoration? How many went to caring for others? How many went to work? How many were given to things you didn't actually want to do but felt obligated to do? The numbers don't lie. Most people who do this exercise are shocked by what they find. They discover they're working 50 or 60 hours when they thought it was 40. They realize they spend 3 hours a day managing other people's needs and 15 minutes on their own. They see that they give entire weekends to obligations that drain them and nothing to activities that restore them. The time audit is confronting because it shows the gap between your stated values and your actual priorities. You say you value your health, but you haven't exercised in months. You say family is important, but you're always working. You say you need rest, but you scroll social media for hours instead of sleeping. You say you want to write that book, but you spend your creative energy on everyone else's projects. Your calendar reveals your real values, not your aspirational ones. And right now, where does your own well-being rank in those real values? Be honest. Once you see the truth, you can start making different choices. But those choices require something that might feel foreign if you've spent your life seeking approval from others. They require you to keep promises to yourself even when no one else is watching, even when breaking them would be easier, even when no one would know except you. They require self-loyalty. What does self-loyalty look like? It's telling yourself you'll go to bed by 10 and actually doing it instead of staying up scrolling. It's committing to a morning walk and following through even when it's cold. It's saying you'll take lunch away from your desk and then actually leaving your desk. It's planning a day off and not filling it with errands for everyone else. It's deciding to see the therapist and showing up to appointments. It's setting aside money for something you want and not spending it on someone else's emergency. Self-loyalty is harder than it sounds because you've been trained to break promises to yourself the moment someone else needs something. Someone calls with a crisis and your workout disappears. Your boss asks you to stay late and your boundary evaporates. Your kid needs help with homework and your rest time vanishes. Your partner wants to talk and your personal project gets postponed. Again, every time you abandon your commitment to yourself for someone else's want. You teach yourself that you're not worth keeping promises to. Start small. Choose one promise you can keep this week. Just one. Make it specific and achievable. Not I'll exercise more, but I'll walk for 15 minutes on Tuesday and Thursday morning. Not I'll eat healthier, but I'll have breakfast sitting down on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Not I'll be better at boundaries, but I'll say no to one request this week that I would normally say yes to. Make the promise. Write it down. Keep it. This is how you begin building self-trust. When you keep the promise, notice how it feels. Not necessarily good at first. It might feel awkward or selfish or weird. The guilt might show up. The resistance might be loud. Keep the promise anyway. And then do it again next week. And the week after. Slowly, incrementally, you're teaching yourself something radical. You're teaching yourself that you matter. You're teaching yourself that your needs are legitimate. You're teaching yourself that you're worth following through for. As you build self-loyalty, you'll need to build boundaries, and this is where many people get stuck. Boundaries are not mean. Boundaries are not selfish. Boundaries are not walls that keep people out. Boundaries are the clear communication of what is and isn't acceptable in your relationships, what you will and won't do, what you can and can't handle. Boundaries are how you protect your infrastructure from constant erosion. Think of boundaries as the property lines of your selfhood. They mark where you end and others begin. They clarify what's your responsibility and what's not. They protect your time, energy, resources, and emotional bandwidth from being colonized by others' demands. Without boundaries, you're a territory anyone can claim. With boundaries, you're a sovereign nation with borders you enforce. But if you've never had boundaries, setting them feels impossible. You don't know what's reasonable to ask for. You don't know how to say no without a 10-minute explanation and apology. You don't know what to do when people push back or ignore your limits. You're afraid of being seen as difficult or high maintenance. You're afraid of conflict. You're afraid people will leave if you stop being endlessly available. These fears are legitimate and also not a reason to continue abandoning yourself. Let's start with the basics. You don't need a reason to say no. No is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your boundaries. The phrase that works best is simple and can be adapted to almost any situation. That doesn't work for me. Not that doesn't work for me because of this elaborate justification I need you to approve of. Just that doesn't work for me. Period. End of sentence. New topic. Practice it out loud right now. Say it in different tones. That doesn't work for me. Feel how short it is, how clean. Notice the discomfort that comes up when you don't add an excuse. Sit with that discomfort. That's the feeling of boundary setting. It's uncomfortable at first because it's unfamiliar, not because it's wrong. When someone asks you to do something and you don't want to do it or don't have capacity for it, the formula is simple. Thank you for thinking of me, but that doesn't work for me. Or I appreciate you asking, but I'm not available for that. Or I can't take that on right now. Notice there's no sorry in these phrases. You're not apologizing for having limits. You're not asking permission to have needs. You're making a clear statement about what is and isn't possible for you. What happens when they push back? Because they will. People who are used to you having no boundaries will not happily accept the introduction of boundaries. They'll ask why. They'll try to problem solve your no into a yes. They'll tell you it won't take long. They'll remind you that you've done it before. They'll make you feel guilty. They'll call you selfish. This is not a sign that your boundary is wrong. This is a sign that your boundary is working. It's blocking something they want, which is exactly what boundaries are supposed to do. Your response to pushback is to hold the line. Repeat the boundary in different words if you need to. I understand you'd like me to do this, and it's not something I can do. I hear that you're disappointed, and my answer is still no. I know I've said yes in the past, and I'm making a different choice now. You don't need to get angry or defensive. You don't need to argue or justify. You just need to hold steady and trust that you have the right to your own limits. Let's practice. Specific boundary scripts for common situations. Your mother calls and asks you to come over this weekend to help her clean out the garage. You have plans to rest. Your old response would be, of course, "What time do you need me?" Your new response is, "I'm not available this weekend, but I could help you for 2 hours next Saturday afternoon if that works." Notice you're not explaining why you're not available. You're not justifying your plans. You're offering an alternative that works for you, not abandoning yourself to meet her timeline. She pushes back. "It won't take long, just a few hours. I really need your help." Your response, "I understand it's important to you, and next Saturday is when I'm available." She escalates. "I can't believe you won't help your own mother. I do so much for you." Your response, "I hear that you're upset. My availability hasn't changed. Next Saturday for 2 hours, or I can help you find someone else who has time this weekend." You're holding the boundary without getting defensive, without explaining, without giving in. Your boss sends you an email at 8 in the evening asking for a report by tomorrow morning. Your old response would be to stay up late finishing it, sacrificing sleep, proving you're reliable. Your new response, sent the next morning, "I saw your email after work hours. I can have this to you by end of day today. If you need it sooner, let me know and I'll reprioritize my other projects accordingly." You're not apologizing for having boundaries around work hours. You're offering a reasonable timeline and asking for clarity if the urgency requires different choices. Your friend texts asking if you can talk. She's having a crisis. It's the 3rd time this week and you're exhausted. Your old response would be, of course, "Call me now." Your new response, "I care about you and I don't have capacity for a call right now. Can we schedule something for tomorrow evening? Or is this urgent enough that you need to call a crisis line?" You're acknowledging her need without abandoning your own. You're offering future availability without immediate availability. You're taking care of yourself while still caring about her. Your sister volunteers you to host Thanksgiving without asking. She announces to the family that you'll be doing it. Your old response would be to silently panic and then host even though you don't want to. Your new response, said publicly in the family chat, "I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I'm not hosting this year. I'm happy to contribute a dish if someone else wants to host." You're correcting the assumption clearly and offering what you are willing to do. Your colleague stops by your desk for the 3rd time today to vent about her problems. You have a deadline. Your old response would be to listen, fall behind on your work, and stay late to catch up. Your new response, "I can see you're having a tough day. I have a deadline right now and can't talk, but I'm free at 3 if you want to catch up then." You're acknowledging without absorbing. You're offering limited availability on your terms. Your partner asks you to run an errand for them because they don't feel like going out. You're already exhausted and this isn't urgent. Your old response would be to do it while feeling resentful. Your new response, "I'm not available to do that today. If it needs to happen today, you'll need to handle it. If it can wait, we can figure out a plan together." You're not responsible for solving their problem or managing their feelings about your boundary. Your adult child calls asking to borrow money for the 4th time this year. Your old response would be to give it even though they haven't paid back the previous loans. Your new response, "I'm not able to lend money right now. If you need financial help, I'm happy to help you look into other resources." You're holding a boundary without explaining your finances or justifying your no. These scripts will feel foreign at first. You'll feel guilty. You'll want to over-explain. You'll worry about being perceived as cold or uncaring. Practice them anyway. Say them out loud until they feel more natural. Write them down and keep them visible. The more you use them, the easier they get. The more you hold boundaries, the more people learn to respect them. The ones who don't are showing you who they are. Believe them, some relationships will not survive your boundaries. This is painful but necessary information. If a relationship only exists because you have no limits, that's not a relationship. That's exploitation wearing a relationship costume. If someone only wants you in their life when you're available to meet their needs without reciprocity, that's not love. That's use. Losing relationships that require your self-destruction is not loss. It's liberation, but many relationships will surprise you. They'll adjust. They'll learn. They'll actually improve because you're no longer operating from resentment and depletion. When you show up boundaried and resourced, you show up more present, more generous, more genuinely available. The people who actually care about you will prefer this version even if it means they can't take as much from you. Consider Deanne. She's 62 years old and has spent 4 decades being the family caretaker. She raised her own children, helped raise her grandchildren, took care of her aging parents until they died, and is now the go-to person for every family crisis. Her siblings call when they need something, but rarely to check on her. Her adult children assume she's available for childcare whenever they need it. She's exhausted and resentful, but doesn't know how to change patterns that have been established for so long. Diane's doctor tells her she needs to reduce stress after her blood pressure reaches dangerous levels. She finally admits to her sister that she can't keep doing everything for everyone. Her sister's response is shocking. "I've been worried about you for years. I thought you wanted to do all this. I didn't realize you felt obligated. We can figure something else out." Her sister starts doing more. Her children are initially resistant, but adjust when they realize Diane's boundaries are firm. Within 6 months, Diane's blood pressure is down. She's sleeping better, and her relationships actually feel closer because the resentment has dissipated. This is what's possible when you risk the discomfort of change. But it requires you to tolerate that initial discomfort, that period when relationships are reorganizing and people are adjusting and you're holding boundaries despite pushback. Most people quit during this phase. They decide it's too hard, too uncomfortable, too risky. They go back to old patterns because those patterns are familiar even though they're destructive. Don't quit during the discomfort. The discomfort is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something different. Now let's talk about reclaiming your time in practical terms. You've done the audit. You've seen where your hours go. Now you need to redesign your days so they actually include space for you. This requires you to become ruthlessly protective of your time and brutally honest about your capacity. Start by identifying non-negotiables. These are the things you will do for yourself every day, no matter what. Maybe it's 8 hours of sleep. Maybe it's 3 meals eaten sitting down. Maybe it's 20 minutes of movement. Maybe it's 10 minutes of quiet before the day starts. Pick 3 non-negotiables. Write them down. Build your day around them instead of fitting them in only if there's time left over. There will never be time left over. You have to claim the time. Put your non-negotiables in your calendar like appointments. Block the time. Protect it the same way you'd protect a doctor's appointment or work meeting. When someone asks for that time, you're not available. You don't explain why. You're not available. This is how you begin treating your own needs with the same seriousness you treat everyone else's. Next, identify time drains. What are you doing that you don't actually need to do? What are you doing that someone else could do? What are you doing out of obligation rather than genuine desire or necessity? Make a list. For each item, ask yourself, does this have to be done? Does it have to be done by me? Does it have to be done now? Does it have to be done at this level of quality? You'll find that many things don't have to be done at all. Many things could be done by someone else. Many things don't need to be done to the standard you're holding yourself to. Many things could be done later or differently or not at all. This is where you start cutting. This is where you start saying no. This is where you reclaim hours. But you also need to address the invisible labor that's consuming your time. The mental load of remembering everything for everyone. The emotional labor of managing everyone's feelings. the planning and organizing and coordinating that happens invisibly. This labor is real work even though it's not visible, and it's exhausting you. Start delegating the invisible labor. Stop being the only person who knows where things are, when appointments are, what needs to be done. Make other people responsible for remembering their own stuff. Stop managing everyone's emotions. Let people feel their feelings without you having to fix them. Stop being the social coordinator for every relationship. Let friendships fade that you're the only one maintaining. This will feel uncomfortable. Things might fall apart temporarily. Let them. People will learn to manage themselves when you stop managing everything for them. Create systems that reduce your load. Automate what you can. Simplify what you can. Lower your standards where it matters least. Your house doesn't need to be spotless. Your meals don't need to be Instagram-worthy. Your kids don't need to be in 17 activities. Your work doesn't need to be perfect. Your appearance doesn't need to be flawless. Good enough is actually good enough in most areas of life. Perfectionism is just another form of self-punishment. Now let's talk about a specific challenge: learning to receive. If you've spent your life giving, receiving feels deeply uncomfortable. You don't know how to let people help you. You don't know how to accept gifts without immediately reciprocating. You don't know how to be cared for without feeling like you owe something. Learning to receive is essential to building reciprocal relationships and breaking patterns of self-sacrifice. Practice saying thank you without adding anything else. Not thank you, but you didn't have to. Not thank you, I'll pay you back. Not thank you, now let me do something for you. Just thank you. That's it. Notice how hard this is. Notice the discomfort. Breathe through it. Receiving is a skill you have to develop. When someone offers help, practice saying yes instead of automatically saying no thanks. I've got it. Even if you could do it yourself, say yes. Let them carry the groceries. Let them pick up your kid. Let them bring you dinner. Let them listen to your problems without you immediately pivoting to theirs. This is how you rebalance relationships that have been one-sided. Ask for help before you're desperate. Don't wait until you're drowning to reach out. Ask when you're at 70% capacity, not 150%. I need help with this, can you? I can't handle this alone, would you? I'm overwhelmed, could you take this off my plate? These are complete sentences. You don't need to justify why you need help. You need help. That's reason enough. Notice who actually shows up when you ask. This is valuable information about your relationships. Some people you thought would help won't. Some people you didn't expect will. Let this information guide how much you invest in different relationships going forward. Reciprocity doesn't mean everyone gives equally in every moment, but over time, healthy relationships have relatively balanced exchange. If you're always giving and someone is always taking, that's not a relationship. That's a transaction where you're getting a bad deal. Let's create a 90-day intensive transformation plan. This is more comprehensive than the 30-day micro-challenge. This is for when you're serious about complete restructuring of how you live. This is for when you're ready to commit to radical change. This is for when you know that incremental shifts aren't enough, and you need to rebuild from the foundation up. Week 1 is assessment and baseline. Day 1, complete the time audit. Track every single hour for 7 full days. No judgment, just data. Day 2, complete the emotional audit. For each activity in your time audit, rate how it made you feel on a scale from deeply depleting to deeply energizing. Day 3, complete the relationship audit. List every significant relationship and rate whether it's generally reciprocal, you give more, or they give more. Day 4, complete the obligation audit. List everything you do out of obligation rather than genuine desire or necessity. Day 5, complete the boundary audit. Identify 10 places where you need boundaries you don't currently have. Day 6, Complete the desire audit. List 20 things you want but haven't allowed yourself. Day 7. Review all your audits and identify the 3 biggest patterns. Write them down. This is your starting point. Week 2 is preparation. Day 8. Identify your 3 non-negotiables for daily self-care. Write them down. Schedule them in your calendar for the next 83 days. Day 9. Write out your top 5 boundaries that need to be set. Create scripts for each one using the formulas we practiced. Day 10. Identify your accountability partner. Reach out and ask if they'll support you in this transformation. Schedule weekly check-ins for the next 12 weeks. Day 11. Create your relapse recovery plan. Write out the 6 steps you'll take when you notice you're backsliding. Day 12. Prepare your environment. Remove or reduce things that trigger old patterns. Add things that support new ones. Day 13. Write your commitment letter to yourself. What are you committing to? Why does it matter? What are you willing to risk? Day 14. Review your preparation. Adjust anything that doesn't feel right. Tomorrow you begin implementation. Week 3 is boundary implementation. Day 15. Set your first boundary. Use your script. Hold the line against pushback. Journal about how it felt. Day 16. Set your second boundary. Notice if it's easier or harder than the first. Day 17. Set your third boundary. You're building momentum. Day 18. Review how your 3 boundaries are holding. Adjust scripts if needed. Day 19. Set your 4th boundary. Day 20. Set your 5th boundary. You've now set all 5 of your primary boundaries. Day 21. Rest day. Do something that brings you joy. You've earned it. Week 4 is consistency building. Day 22 through day 28. Your job is to hold the boundaries you've set. When people test them, hold firm. When guilt shows up, acknowledge it and hold firm anyway. When you want to cave, call your accountability partner. Practice your scripts until they feel more natural. Each day, check in with yourself. Are you honoring your boundaries? Are you keeping your non-negotiables? Where are you struggling? What do you need to adjust? This week is about proving to yourself that you can maintain what you've started. Week 5 is delegation and reduction. Day 29. Identify 3 tasks you can stop doing entirely. Stop doing them. Don't replace them with anything. Just stop. Day 30. Identify 3 tasks someone else can do. Delegate them. Resist the urge to micromanage. Day 31. Identify 3 tasks you can do to a lower standard. Lower the standard. Notice the guilt. Do it anyway. Day 32. Identify 3 commitments you need to exit. Start the process of extracting yourself. Day 33. Review your calendar for the next month. What can you cancel? What can you shorten? What can you say no to? Make those changes. Day 34. Assess how much time you've reclaimed. Schedule something just for you in that time. Day 35. Rest day. Notice how you feel with less on your plate. Week 6 is receiving practice. Day 36. Say yes to help even though you could do it yourself. Day 37. Accept a compliment with just thank you. No deflecting. Day 38. Ask someone for help with something. Let them help. Day 39. Let someone do something kind for you without reciprocating immediately. Day 40. Share a struggle with someone without immediately helping them with theirs. Day 41. Receive something without minimizing it or yourself. Day 42. Reflect on what receiving felt like this week. What was hard? What surprised you? What do you want to practice more? Week 7 is pleasure reclamation. Day 43. Do one thing you loved as a child. Day 44. Try something new you've been curious about. Day 45. Spend money on something you want but don't need. Notice the guilt. Buy it anyway. Day 46. Spend an hour doing something creative with no goal. Day 47. Take yourself on a solo date. Day 48. Revisit an old hobby you abandoned. Day 49. Reflect on what brought you joy this week. How can you make more space for these things? Week 8 is relationship renegotiation. Day 50. Have a conversation with one person about how the relationship needs to change. Use your scripts. Be clear about your boundaries. Day 51. Have the conversation with a second person. Day 52. Have the conversation with a third person. Day 53. Assess how these conversations went. Who responded well? Who didn't? Day 54. Adjust your investment in relationships based on what you learned. Day 55. Spend time with some. Week 9 is confronting resistance. Day 57 through day 63. This week is about facing whatever resistance is coming up. The guilt that says you're being selfish. The fear that people will leave. The worry that you're doing it wrong. The exhaustion from maintaining boundaries. The grief of relationships changing. The discomfort of being different. Your job this week is to feel all of it and keep going anyway. Journal every day about what you're feeling. Call your accountability partner when it's hard. Rest when you need to. Cry if you need to. But don't quit. Don't go back to old patterns. Keep choosing yourself. This is the hardest week. If you can get through this week, you can get through anything. Week 10 is system building. Day 64. Create your morning routine that includes your non-negotiables. Day 65. Create your evening routine that supports good sleep. Day 66. Create your weekly check-in system. Day 67. Create your monthly review system. Day 68. Set up environmental cues that support your new habits. Day 69. Create consequences for breaking promises to yourself. Day 70. Test your systems for a day. Adjust anything that doesn't work. Week 11 is expansion. Day 71. Set one new boundary you've been avoiding. Day 72. Reclaim one more hour of your week. Day 73. Try one new thing that interests you. Day 74. Deepen one relationship that's reciprocal. Day 75. Reduce contact with one relationship that's extractive. Day 76. Invest in yourself in some way. Time, money, energy, attention. Something that says you matter. Day 77. Rest and integrate. Week 12 is consolidation. Day 78 through day 84. Your job is to maintain everything you've built. Keep your boundaries. Honor your non-negotiables. Maintain your systems. Continue your practices. This week proves you can sustain this. This week shows you that this isn't temporary. This is who you're becoming. Week 13 is evaluation and commitment. Day 85. Look back at your week 1 audits. Do the same audits again. Compare the results. What's different? What's better? What still needs work? Day 86. Identify 3 things you want to continue. Day 87. Identify 3 things you want to add. Day 88. Identify 3 things you want to stop or reduce. Day 89. Update your commitment letter based on what you've learned. Day 90. Celebrate. You did 90 days. You proved you can choose yourself. You built a foundation. Now you keep going. After 90 days, you don't stop. You continue. You maintain. You adjust. You deepen. You expand. Some days will be easier. Some will be harder. You'll have good weeks and tough weeks. You'll have moments of backsliding and moments of breakthrough. That's normal. That's life. What matters is that you never go back to complete self-abandonment. What matters is that you keep the foundation solid, even when you're building different things on top of it. Now, let's talk extensively about relapse prevention, because this is where most people fail. You do great for weeks or months, and then something happens. A crisis, a holiday, a stressful period, a person who knows how to push your buttons. And suddenly, you're right back where you started. Saying yes to everything. Abandoning your boundaries. Sacrificing yourself. Feeling resentful and depleted. Understanding relapse patterns and having a solid prevention plan is the difference between lasting transformation and temporary improvement. First, identify your specific relapse triggers. Not just general stress, but specific triggers. Is it your mother's voice with a certain tone? Is it your boss's disappointment? Is it your partner's silent treatment? Is it your child's tears? Is it financial pressure? Is it someone's anger? Is it being in your childhood home? Is it certain holidays? Is it when you're tired? Is it when you're sick? Is it when you feel guilty? Get specific about what specifically makes you most likely to abandon your boundaries and revert to old patterns. For each trigger, create a specific plan. When my mother uses that guilt-inducing tone, I will take 3 deep breaths, remind myself of my boundary, and repeat my script without elaborating. When my boss seems disappointed, I will remind myself that their disappointment is not an emergency I need to fix by sacrificing myself. When my partner gives me the silent treatment, I will continue with my day and not chase them. When my child cries about a boundary, I will comfort them while holding the boundary. When I'm tired, I will be extra protective of my energy and say no more readily. Write out your trigger and your planned response. This is your relapse prevention playbook. Create early warning signs that you're headed toward relapse. These are the subtle shifts that happen before full backsliding. Maybe you stop checking in with yourself. Maybe you start skipping your non-negotiables. Maybe you say yes once when you meant to say no. Maybe you make excuses for not holding a boundary. Maybe you stop calling your accountability partner. Maybe you start feeling resentful again. Maybe you notice tension returning to your body. These early warning signs are your chance to course correct before full relapse. When you notice an early warning sign, implement your relapse recovery plan immediately. Don't wait. Don't tell yourself it's fine. Don't minimize it. Catch it early. Step 1. Pause and name what's happening. I'm starting to slip back into people-pleasing. I'm beginning to abandon my boundaries. I'm reverting to old patterns. Just name it clearly. Step 2. Identify what triggered this. What happened? What am I responding to? What am I afraid of? Step 3. Reconnect with your why. Why are you doing this work? What's at stake? What do you want that you'll lose if you go back to old patterns? Step 4. Choose one small action right now that moves you back toward self-love. Make it tiny and doable. Step 5. Reach out to your accountability partner. Tell them you're struggling. Ask for support. Step 6. Be compassionate with yourself about the slip while still holding yourself accountable to get back on track. Let's talk about specific high-risk situations and how to navigate them without relapsing. Holidays are particularly dangerous. Family gatherings activate old roles and dynamics. There's pressure to perform, to host, to manage everyone's emotions, to keep the peace. Everyone expects you to be who you've always been. Your boundaries threaten the family homeostasis. Here's how to navigate holidays without losing yourself. 4 weeks before the holiday, clarify your boundaries. What will you do? What won't you do? How long will you stay? What behaviors will you not tolerate? Write it down. 2 weeks before, communicate your boundaries to relevant people. I'll be there from 2 to 5. I'm not hosting this year but happy to bring a dish. I won't be staying overnight. I'll need to leave if the conversation becomes hostile. Whatever your boundaries are, state them clearly ahead of time. Don't wait until you're in the situation. 1 week before, prepare your exit strategy. How will you leave if you need to? Do you have your own transportation? Do you have a place to go? Knowing you can leave makes staying easier. The day before, review your boundaries. Remind yourself of your scripts. Call your accountability partner for a pep talk. Day of, check in with yourself every hour. Am I okay? Do I need to take a break? Is it time to leave? Honor your needs in real time. Day after debrief. What went well? What was hard? What would you do differently next time? Celebrate that you got through it without abandoning yourself. Work crunch times are another high-risk situation. Year-end, quarter-end, big projects with tight deadlines. The pressure is intense. Everyone's stressed. There's an unspoken expectation that you'll sacrifice everything for the work. Here's how to maintain boundaries during crunch time. Before the crunch starts, clarify what's actually required versus what's expected out of habit. Push back on unrealistic timelines if possible. If you can't change the timeline, change the scope. Something has to give. It can't be just your well-being. During the crunch, maintain your non-negotiables even more strictly. Sleep matters more when you're stressed, not less. Meals matter more. Breaks matter more. Don't sacrifice your foundation in the name of productivity. You'll be less effective depleted anyway. Be vocal about your limits. I can stay until 7 tonight, but not later. I can work this weekend, but then I need 2 days off next week. Make your boundaries known so others can plan accordingly. Delegate or eliminate anything that's not critical. This is not the time to be proving you can handle everything. After the crunch, take actual recovery time. Don't just roll into the next thing. Rest, reset, restore. Illness or injury, whether yours or a family member's, is extremely high risk for relapse. When someone needs intensive care, when medical situations are urgent, when fear is high, boundaries feel impossible. You slip back into sacrifice mode because someone's survival feels dependent on you. Here's the truth. You're no good to anyone if you collapse. Even in crisis, even when caregiving is necessary, you need to maintain some baseline of self-care. You need to sleep in shifts, not never. You need to eat, not skip meals. You need help, not to do it all alone. You need breaks, not constant vigilance. Crisis is when you need to protect your foundation most, not when you get to abandon it. Make decisions from clarity, not martyrdom. Ask yourself, is this necessary, or is this me trying to prove my devotion through suffering? They're not the same thing. Financial stress is another common relapse trigger. When money is tight, self-care feels like an expense you can't afford. You work more hours. You say yes to every opportunity, even if it drains you. You sacrifice your boundaries to keep money coming in. You tell yourself you'll prioritize yourself once you're financially stable, but that day never comes because you're always in hustle mode. Here's the reframe. Self-care is not an expense. It's an investment that makes you more capable, more creative, more effective. You'll make better decisions resourced than depleted. You'll be more productive rested than exhausted. You'll be clearer about what opportunities are actually worth your time when you're not scrambling in desperation. Even in financial stress, you need boundaries. Even when money is tight, you need rest. Figure out the minimum to meet your needs, meet that minimum, and protect everything else fiercely. Don't sacrifice your life for security. You'll be too depleted to enjoy. Relationship conflicts are relapse triggers too. When you're fighting with your partner, when your teenager is in crisis, when your friend is mad at you, the pressure to fix it by abandoning your boundaries is intense. You want to smooth things over. You want everyone to be okay. You want the conflict to stop. So you cave. You say you're sorry even when you're not. You back down from your boundary. You do what they want. You lose yourself to restore peace. Don't. Conflict is sometimes necessary. Discomfort is sometimes the price of authenticity. Not all peace is healthy peace. Some peace is just you silencing yourself. Hold your boundaries, especially during conflict. That's when they matter most. Let's talk about the specific challenge of maintaining self-love when you're facing internal resistance. Sometimes the biggest obstacle isn't other people. It's you. It's the voice in your head that says you're being selfish. It's the guilt that won't quiet. It's the fear that you're doing something wrong. It's the part of you that's terrified of change. This internal resistance is just as real as external pushback and needs to be addressed directly. The guilt voice sounds like this. Who do you think you are to prioritize yourself? Other people have it harder and they don't complain. You're being dramatic. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Just suck it up. Stop being so sensitive. You're letting people down. You're a bad person for having boundaries. You should be able to handle this. What's wrong with you that you can't do what everyone else does? When the guilt voice shows up, don't argue with it. Don't try to logic it away. Just notice it. Thank you for sharing, guilt voice. I hear you. You're trying to keep me safe by keeping me small. I understand. And I'm choosing differently anyway. You don't have to win the argument with your guilt. You just have to choose yourself despite it. The fear voice sounds like this. If you set this boundary, they'll leave. If you say no, they'll be angry. If you prioritize yourself, you'll lose everything. You'll end up alone. You'll be rejected. You'll be abandoned. You can't handle that. It's safer to stay small. It's safer to sacrifice yourself. At least then you know what to expect. When the fear voice shows up, acknowledge the fear and assess the actual risk. What is the realistic worst-case scenario? Not the catastrophic fantasy, but the actual realistic outcome? If they leave over a reasonable boundary, that tells you they didn't want a real relationship. If they're angry over your self-care, that tells you they're invested in your sacrifice. These outcomes are information, not catastrophes. The fear wants to keep you safe by keeping you stuck. Thank the fear for trying to protect you and choose courage anyway. The perfectionism voice sounds like this. You're not doing this right. You should be further along by now. Other people are better at this. You're failing. You set a boundary, but you weren't nice enough about it. You took time for yourself, but you should have used it more productively. You're not meditating right. You're not boundary setting right. You're not self-loving right. You're doing everything wrong. When the perfectionism voice shows up, remind yourself that there's no perfect way to do this. You're learning. You're practicing. You're figuring it out as you go. That's not just okay, that's the only way this works. Progress over perfection. Messy action over perfect inaction. B- work that actually happens over a plus work that stays in your head. You're doing fine. Better than fine. You're doing it, which is the only thing that matters. Create a practice of talking back to these voices. Not arguing, but offering a different perspective. When guilt says you're selfish, you say, I'm actually caring for myself so I can be more present for others. When fear says you'll be alone, you say, I'd rather be alone than in relationships that require my self-destruction. When perfectionism says you're doing it wrong, you say, I'm learning, and that's enough. You can also create a compassionate witness voice. This is the part of you that observes without judgment, that holds your struggle with tenderness, that reminds you of your worth. When you're being harsh with yourself, let the compassionate witness interrupt. The compassionate witness sounds like this. You're really struggling right now, and that makes sense. This is hard. You're doing your best. You're learning something your whole life taught you was wrong. Of course there's resistance. Of course there's fear. Of course it's uncomfortable. You're still showing up. You're still trying. That matters. I'm proud of you. Keep going. Practice speaking to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you love who's going through this. You wouldn't tell your best friend to stop being so sensitive and just suck it up. You'd tell them they deserve care. You'd tell them their feelings matter. You'd tell them you're proud of them for trying. You'd tell them to keep going even when it's hard. Say those things to yourself. Mean them. Let's talk about the challenge of self-love when you're neurodivergent. If you have ADHD, autism, or other neurodivergent traits, self-love looks different. You might struggle with executive function, making it hard to maintain routines. You might have sensory sensitivities that make certain self-care practices intolerable. You might have rejection-sensitive dysphoria that makes boundary setting feel excruciating. You might mask so heavily in social situations that you're completely depleted afterward. Traditional self-love advice might not work for your brain. Self-love for neurodivergent folks means honoring your actual needs, not forcing yourself into neurotypical frameworks. It means noise-canceling headphones when you're overwhelmed by sound. It means alone time to unmask and regulate. It means stimming without shame. It means body doubling when you need accountability. It means environmental modifications that support your nervous system. It means medication if that's what helps. It means accommodations without apology. It means working with your brain, not against it. It also means setting boundaries around masking. You don't have to perform neurotypical at all times. You can let people see your actual processing. You can take breaks from social situations. You can communicate in the way that works for you, not the way that makes others comfortable. You can arrange your life to minimize things that deplete you and maximize things that work with your neurology. Let's talk about the challenge of self-love in marginalized identities. If you're Black, Indigenous, a person of color, LGBTQ+, disabled, fat, poor, or otherwise marginalized, you're navigating self-love in a world that actively devalues you. You're dealing with systemic oppression on top of personal conditioning. You're facing discrimination and violence. You're expected to educate others about your experience. You're required to be twice as good to be considered half as worthy. The idea of prioritizing yourself when the world is actively trying to erase you feels impossible and also absolutely necessary. Self-love in the context of oppression is resistance. It's refusing to internalize the devaluation. It's protecting your energy from people who see you as less than. It's building community with people who affirm your humanity. It's saying no to performing for the comfort of those with privilege. It's healing from the trauma of living in a body or identity the world treats as disposable. It's recognizing that your survival and thriving is a political act. It's knowing that self-love doesn't fix systems, but it keeps you alive and whole while you fight those systems. It also means acknowledging that some of the barriers to your self-love are structural, not personal failures. You're not failing at self-care because you're not good enough. You're navigating systems not built for your survival. That's different. That context matters. Self-love includes fighting for systemic change while also caring for yourself within current. Kaisha's self-love looks different. It's finding Black therapist who understands her experience. It's building community with other Black women who get it. It's strategic about which battles she fights at work and which she lets go for her own survival. It's protecting her energy by not trying to educate every ignorant colleague. It's connecting with cultural practices that affirm her identity. It's recognizing that her exhaustion isn't personal failure, but the cost of navigating white supremacy. It's gentle with herself about what she can and can't do. It's proud of herself for surviving systems designed to break her. That's self-love in context. That's what it actually looks like when you're doing it while marginalized. Let's talk about money and self-love in much more depth, because this is where a lot of people get stuck. They want to prioritize themselves, but they genuinely don't have resources. Or they think they don't. Let's get really granular about what self-love looks like at different income levels and how to make it work even when money is extremely tight. If you're barely making ends meet, self-love is free boundaries. It's saying no to your sibling who keeps asking for money you don't have. It's not covering your coworker's shift for the third time this week, even though you could use the overtime because you need the rest more than the money. It's letting dishes sit overnight because you don't have the energy after your double shift. It's accessing free community resources, food banks, free clinics, library programs, sliding scale therapy, free meditation apps, YouTube workout videos, free support groups. These resources exist. Using them is not failing. Using them is being resourceful. It's also protecting your decision-making. When you're poor, people with money often give you advice that doesn't account for your reality. They tell you to save when you're choosing between rent and groceries. They tell you to invest in quality when you can barely afford cheap. They tell you to quit toxic jobs when you have no safety net. They tell you to spend money on self-care when you're trying to keep utilities on. Their advice comes from privilege. You don't have to take it. You're doing what you can with what you have. That's enough. If you're lower middle class with a bit more room to breathe, self-love might be the $10 therapy copay you actually pay instead of skipping. It might be the once-a-month takeout that saves your sanity. It might be the second-hand book that brings you joy. It might be the gym membership you can barely afford, but that's the only thing keeping your mental health stable. It might be saying no to your extended family's expectations that you contribute to every birthday, holiday, and crisis when you're trying to build an emergency fund. Your financial security is self-love. Your boundary around money is self-love. If you're solidly middle class, you have more resources but often more guilt. You can afford therapy but feel selfish paying for it. You can afford a house cleaner but think you should do it yourself. You can afford to work less, but don't because you're supposed to want career advancement. You can afford childcare so you can rest, but you've been told good parents don't need breaks. Your self-love is spending the money you have on your well-being without guilt. You earned it. It's yours to use. Using it to make your life better is not frivolous. It's strategic. If you're upper middle class or wealthy, your money removes some barriers but creates others. You can buy your way out of a lot of problems, but you can't buy your way out of the conditioning. You still feel guilty. You still people please. You still sacrifice yourself to prove you're good despite your privilege. Your self-love is recognizing that your worth isn't contingent on proving you don't have it easy. You're allowed to have boundaries even though you have resources. You're allowed to prioritize yourself even though others have it harder. Your privilege doesn't obligate you to martyrdom. It obligates you to using your privilege for good, which includes modeling healthy boundaries and self-worth, regardless of your income level. Look at where your money actually goes. For 1 month, track every dollar. At the end, categorize it. How much went to absolute necessities? How much went to others? How much went to making yourself look good to others? How much went to numbing and coping behaviors? How much went to actual investments in your well-being? Most people discover they're spending more than they realize on things that don't actually serve them. That money could be redirected. Maybe you're buying lunch out every day because you're too depleted to pack it. Spending $150 a month you could redirect to 1 therapy session. Maybe you're subscribed to 17 streaming services you barely use. $50 a month that could pay for a gym membership you'd actually use. Maybe you're constantly buying small gifts for others to maintain relationships. Money that could go towards something you actually need. Maybe you're spending money to manage anxiety that therapy would address more effectively. Look at your spending through the lens of self-love. Is this money going toward my actual well-being, or am I spending it out of guilt, obligation, or numbing? Create a self-love budget line item. Just like you budget for rent and groceries, budget for your well-being. Even if it's just $20 a month, name it. Protect it. Spend it intentionally on something that genuinely supports you. As your income increases, increase this line item. Make it non-negotiable. This is the money that's for you, not for everyone else, not for looking good, not for keeping peace. For you. Now let's talk about the ongoing practice of pleasure reclamation in much more depth. This is where a lot of people get intellectually on board with self-love, but struggle with implementation because they don't actually know what they enjoy anymore. They've been so focused on what they should do, what they need to do, what everyone else wants them to do, that they've lost touch with what they want. They have no hobbies. They have no interests. They have no desires beyond finishing their to-do list and maybe getting some sleep. Reconnecting with pleasure is essential work. Start by paying attention to moments of mild interest or curiosity. You walk past a pottery studio and glance in the window. You see a book title that catches your eye. You hear a song that makes you want to move. You smell something cooking that makes you hungry in a good way. You see someone doing something and think that looks interesting. These tiny moments of interest are important data. Write them down. You're collecting evidence of what calls to you. For the next week, try one new thing that sparked your interest. Go into the pottery studio and ask about classes. Buy the book. Listen to more music by that artist. Find a recipe for that dish. Google information about that interesting thing. Take one step toward your curiosity. You don't have to commit to anything. You're just exploring. You're just gathering more data about what makes you feel alive. Notice the resistance that comes up. The voice that says you don't have time for this. The voice that says you'll be bad at it. The voice that says this is frivolous. The voice that says you should be doing something useful. Thank the voices and do it anyway. You're retraining your system to recognize pleasure as legitimate. Try things you used to love before life got so heavy. Did you draw as a kid? Buy a sketchbook and some pencils. Did you love to dance? Put on music and move in your living room. Did you collect things? Start again. Did you play an instrument? Dust it off. Did you write stories? Write one sentence. Did you build things? Build something small. The goal is not to be good. The goal is to reconnect with the part of you that does things, just for the joy of doing them. Let yourself be a beginner at something. Most adults resist new things because being bad at something feels uncomfortable. We're supposed to be competent. We're supposed to be good at things. But being a beginner is how you learn. It's how you expand. It's how you discover what brings you joy. Sign up for the dance class even though you have no rhythm. Take the cooking class even though you'll probably burn something. Join the recreational sports league even though you're not athletic. Try the art class even though your paintings will probably look like kindergartner made them. Let yourself be gloriously, enthusiastically bad at something new. There's freedom in that. Make a list of 100 things you want to do before you die. Don't censor yourself. Don't worry about practicality or money or time. Just list everything. Learn to play piano. Visit Japan. Write a novel. Take a pottery class. Learn to tango. Swim with dolphins. See the northern lights. Build a garden. Learn another language. Read War and Peace. Try skydiving. Take a road trip with no destination. Stay in a castle. Learn to paint. Master bread baking. Whatever comes to mind, write it down. Get to 100 items. Now you have a roadmap of desires. Pick one small thing from the list. Just one. Figure out the first tiny step toward making it happen. Take that step this week. Create space for unstructured time. This is time with no agenda, no goal, no to-do list. Just time to be. Most people are so uncomfortable with unstructured time that they immediately fill it with something productive. Resist that urge. Let yourself be bored. Let your mind wander. Let ideas come. Let yourself daydream. This is where creativity lives. This is where you reconnect with yourself. Schedule at least 2 hours a week of completely unstructured time. No phone, no tasks, no schedule. Just being. Notice what you gravitate toward in that unstructured time. Do you reach for a book? Do you want to be? First, recognize that martyring yourself does not make you a better parent. It makes you a depleted parent. Your kids don't need perfect. They don't need you to sacrifice everything. They need you to be regulated, present, and resourced enough to actually attune to them. They need to see you care for yourself so they learn self-care is normal. They need you to have boundaries so they learn boundaries are healthy. They need to see you pursue your interests so they learn their own interests matter. You modeling self-love teaches them self-love. You modeling self-sacrifice teaches them self-sacrifice. Second, understand that meeting your own needs is meeting their needs. When you sleep enough, you're more patient with them. When you eat regularly, you're less reactive. When you have support, you're more present. When you pursue your interests, you're more interesting to be around and less resentful. When you have adult relationships, you're not making them responsible for your emotional needs. Your well-being directly impacts their well-being. This is not selfish. This is strategic. Third, involve them age-appropriately in the process. Mom needs 30 minutes of quiet time after work before I can be available to you. That's not rejection. That's me taking care of myself so I can be the parent you need. Dad is going for a run because it helps me feel good. You can play independently for that hour. That's not abandonment. That's me maintaining my health so I can care for you long term. I'm going out with friends tonight because I need adult connection. You'll have fun with the babysitter. That's not selfish. That's me being a whole person with needs beyond motherhood. Fourth, lower your parenting standards in ways that don't actually matter. Your kids don't need homemade organic meals every night. They need to be fed. Your kids don't need elaborate birthday parties. They need to feel celebrated. Your kids don't need you at every single activity. They need your genuine presence at some things. Your kids don't need a spotless house. They need a functional home. Your kids don't need you to be room parent and PTA president. They need you to not be resentful and exhausted. Figure out what actually matters for your kids' well-being versus what you're doing to look like a good parent to others. Cut everything in the second category. Fifth, get help. Hire it if you can afford it. Ask for it if you can't. Trade childcare with other parents. Ask family to actually help, not just visit and create more work. Join a childcare co-op. Use school programs. Use summer camps. Use after-school activities. Use babysitters. Your kids will survive and thrive with other caregivers. You're not supposed to do this alone. The nuclear family setup where one or two parents do everything is recent and harmful. Humans evolved to raise children in community. Build that community. Use that community. Sixth, protect time for your partnership if you're co-parenting. Your relationship with your partner matters. It's not selfish to go on dates. It's not selfish to talk about something other than the kids. It's not selfish to have sex. It's not selfish to maintain connection. Your kids benefit from you having a solid partnership. They benefit from seeing healthy adult relationships. They don't benefit from you being martyrs who have no life outside of parenting them. That's pressure they shouldn't carry. Seventh, as your kids get older, increase their responsibility and independence. You don't have to do everything for them. They can pack their own lunches. They can do their own homework. They can manage their own conflicts with friends. They can do laundry. They can cook simple meals. They can remember their own stuff. You're not helping them by doing everything. You're disabling them. Let them struggle. Let them fail. Let them learn. Stop helicoptering and start supporting from a distance. This is better for them and it frees up your energy. 8th, deal with your guilt about not being enough. You're enough. Your kids are fine. They don't need perfect. They need good enough. They need you to be human. They need you to model imperfection. They need you to apologize when you mess up. They need you to have limits. They need you to take care of yourself. Stop comparing yourself to impossible standards. Stop measuring yourself against other parents who are either lying about their reality or have resources you don't have. You're doing fine. Better than fine. You're doing it. Let me tell you about Simone. She's got 3 kids under 10, works full-time, and is constantly exhausted. She feels guilty about everything. Guilty when she's at work instead of with her kids. Guilty when she's with her kids instead of working. Guilty when she takes any time for herself. Guilty when she's too tired for sex. Guilty when she orders takeout. Guilty when her house is messy. Guilty when she misses a school event. Guilty that she's not enjoying motherhood more. Just constant, crushing guilt. Simone realizes the guilt is running her life and making her miserable, which is making everyone else miserable. She decides to challenge the guilt. She starts by asking herself, what do my kids actually need from me versus what do I think I should be providing? She realizes they need her fed, rested, and present more than they need elaborate activities. She cuts the activities. She starts saying no to volunteering at school. She hires a cleaning service twice a month. She tells her kids that Saturday mornings are her time and they need to play independently or watch TV while she sleeps in. She stops making homemade everything and uses more convenience foods. She goes out with friends twice a month. Her kids adjust fine. Better than fine. They learn to entertain themselves. They become more independent. They see her as a whole person. Her partnership improves because she's less resentful. Her work improves because she's less depleted. She still feels guilty sometimes, but she doesn't let it run her life anymore. She's modeling for her kids that adults have needs too, and that's healthy. That's the legacy she wants to leave them. Now, let's go deeper on the challenge of self-love when you're in a romantic relationship with someone who is threatened by your growth. This is incredibly common. You start setting boundaries and prioritizing yourself, and your partner feels threatened. They like the old you who had no limits. They liked the dynamic where you did everything. They liked being the center of attention. Your changes disrupt their comfort. They push back. They guilt you. They tell you you've changed, and not in a good way. They make your growth about them. First, recognize this is information about them, not proof that you're doing something wrong. Partners who are threatened by your growth are showing you they're more invested in your service than your well-being. Partners who truly love you will support your growth even when it's uncomfortable for them. They'll adjust. They'll do their part. They'll celebrate your boundaries even if it means they can't lean on you as much. Partners who don't are showing you the relationship was built on your sacrifice. Second, have a clear, direct conversation. Use specific examples. When I set a boundary about not answering work emails after 8, you told me I was being difficult. When I said I needed a day to myself, you pouted for 3 days. When I stopped doing your laundry, you complained instead of doing it yourself. These responses make me feel like you want me to have no needs. I need you to support my well-being, not punish me for prioritizing it. What do you need from me to make this change easier? And what are you willing to change on your end? Third, watch what they do, not what they say. Do they make changes? Do they do more? Do they stop the guilt trips? Do they actually support you? Or do they say they support you but their behavior doesn't change? Do they promise to do better but then continue the same patterns? Do they apologize but keep doing the thing? Actions matter more than words. Give them time to adjust, but not endless time. If months go by and nothing changes despite clear communication, that's your answer. Fourth, be prepared for escalation. Sometimes when boundaries start to hold, partners escalate to try to break them. They might create a crisis. They might threaten to leave. They might give ultimatums. They might cheat. They might have an affair. They might blow up your life to prove they won't be controlled. This is terrifying, and it's also information. Someone who would rather destroy the relationship than respect your boundaries is someone who was never safe to be with. As painful as it is, better to know now. Fifth, take care of yourself through this process. Have support outside the relationship. See a therapist individually. Talk to friends who support your growth. Journal. Grieve what you're losing even as you gain yourself. This is legitimately hard. You're renegotiating or potentially ending a relationship that matters to you. That's painful even when it's necessary. You're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to wish it was different. You're allowed to grieve. Sixth, make decisions based on patterns, not potential. Don't stay with someone based on who they could be if they changed. Don't stay based on who they were before. Stay or leave based on who they actually are right now, demonstrated by consistent patterns over time. If the pattern is disrespect for your boundaries, believe it. If the pattern is guilt and manipulation, believe it. If the pattern is refusal to grow, believe it. You cannot love someone into changing. They have to want to change for themselves. Seventh, know your bottom line. What is your absolute non-negotiable? What would make you leave no matter what? For some people, it's physical violence. For some, it's infidelity. For some, it's addiction. For some, it's refusal to do any emotional work. For some, it's